A very good morning to you watching. This is Smart Minutes Business here in Smart 24 TV. My name is Marcy Katsime and today is the Wednesday, the 13th of March 2024. A beautiful way to begin the morning, and I hope that you tuned in. And of course, just in case you want to catch us, you can catch us every day on our different social media handles, different platforms on YouTube, on Smart 24 TV, and on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, I should say X, on Smart 24 TV now, and of course on Facebook on Smart 24 TV official. Well, we are located at plot 429 Avenue. You can come in and check in on us, and we could discuss on a few things. Yes, and of course, as we've been looking for the last month, our currency has been depreciating. Yeah, and therefore the Bank of Uganda came out and highlighted something to do with the monetary policy statement for this month. Yeah. And of course, last week, there was a special meeting regarding the monetary policy where there was a committee, that decided on the increased bank rate to 10%. Well, then, the unfolding of some risks mentioned in the February 2024 monetary policy statement, including the depreciation of the shilling exchange rate, has triggered the need to tighten monetary policies. And of course, this rotates around the supply of money into a nation and how we can find a way of achieving economic growth. And of course, one of the strategies is revising the interest rates, as the Bank of Uganda is going to be looking into, and of course looking at the different bank reserve requirements that we have as a country, Uganda, on how to punch that up so that we can have an economic growth. Once the currency starts depreciating, there is a lot that causes it. There's a lot of consequences. There is inflation. There is inflation, definitely inflation. So we have to get ready for such occurrences very soon from now. Now, of course, as inflation turns in this last month indicated, both headline and core inflation rose to 3.4%. from 2.8%. Actually, towards the end of last year, we were at 2.8%. So therefore, anytime from now, if you've seen what has been costing 3,000 now at 3,500, you have to know this is due to the fact that our currency is depreciating, and the Bank of Uganda, which is the one responsible, has to come in and find ways to regulate what is happening in the country Uganda, to stabilize whatever occurrences that are happening. Well, while the main contributors to the rise in inflation are services and energy, coupled up with fuel and utilities, this combined with the depreciation of the shilling could spill over into the general prices if not contained. Like I said, much of the things that rotate around Uganda is due to mostly because we mainly rely on road transport, and definitely the carriers, the trucks, different trucks, the vehicles need fuel. So due to the global shocks in fuel prices, they do affect us as a country, Uganda. Once the prices of fuel are high, trust me, every commodity in Uganda is going to increase by a certain percentage. So due to the various factors that we have in place, anytime from now, actually, I think you could have noticed, for those that have been going to the different purchasing a few items, there's been an increase of prices. Okay, so this is why we are having such conversations right now. Now, of course, with the sharp depreciation which happened last month, which was caused by the outflow of some offshore investor funds from the domestic market in search of more attractive yields in other markets. Also looking at the strong demand, partly as a hedging mechanism against further depreciation and seasonal factors. So someone would say, when when there is a depreciation in your currency, it does not attract investors. Well, I could say that could be the reason. But then Uganda is one of the safest places to invest as a person. If you're thinking of other means, yeah, we are safe. Well, of course, still, the exchange rate depreciation would push inflation above the medium term target of 5% by half of this year. Yeah, so we shall await to see the increase actually of inflation due to the depreciation of our currency very soon. Whereas there was a downward inflationary pressures arising from these continuing vanishing effects of supply side shocks, receding global inflations, and improved domestic food supply, which are likely to be overweighed by the effects of the weaker shillings. We witnessed this last year with Kenya. We also witnessed it with Nigeria, yes, and it's still grappling with the depreciation of the weakening currency. And you could imagine now a commodity that costed 10,000 was bought double. So you can imagine the kind of consequences that brings forward. Well, of course, the inflationary trajectory will be shaped by the outlook of the shilling and other goods inflation. While inflation forecasts have been revised upwards in the short term, in the light of exchange rate depreciation, inflation is projected to rise above the medium target of 5% by the first quarter of the 2024-2025 financial year, and above 5% throughout 2025 unless the monetary policy is tightened. Well, good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Marcy. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah. We are looking at the
central bank rate, which actually increased by 0.5%. It had been maintained at 9.5% for the last good years, but it's been quite evident because at least we saw it combating some sort of inflation if you compare to late 2022 when we entered 2023, we had inflation at almost 10%. But by the time we came to the end of 2023, we had been able to combat it to at least 2.8% around that rate. It was a little bit quite positive in all aspects, and grateful for what is really happening, despite the fact of what is the way the shilling is trading with the dollar is actually very alarming because it's almost reaching 3,900.
And it's soon to be at 4,000.
Almost 4,000. Yeah. And it last happened this way in 2020, when it was almost 3,900 still in that particular line. But of course, the central bank had to take all the measures to ensure that it's all put together. There is something you mentioned about offshore investors withdrawing their money, most especially from the financial markets, because they are mainly interested in markets which have better premiums, in terms of packages, and the profitability rate is actually good for them. And the fact that we are also still into that aspect of I know we got off the grey list, but still that's not a guarantee.
We are on the blacklist.
Still. Yes. So when it comes to
money laundering,
the money laundering perspective, and even incomes that come from other countries to come into in form of funding, there is also a limitation in the zone where Uganda is actually is. So those are also some of the factors, despite that the aspect that they are trying to attract investors. But now that means if the central bank rate is just increased by 50 basis points, so that means the borrowing rate is also going to increase. Commercial borrowing, interest rates. Now we are talking about if we are about 28% before, we might now be at 30%. I mean, that's a lot of money of interest rate, most especially to the entrepreneurs.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. That means there is going to be lesser investment and less opportunities which are going to be created. Now to the side of the consumers, the borrowing rate has to be it's going to be reduced, and that means their purchasing power is going to be it's going to be low. So that's all coming back to the economy, and it also points us back to what we were discussing yesterday about consumer behavior. So this is going to also have a trend in consumer behavior. Because if I don't have money, if I can't access credit at any time, well, then most of the decisions as a consumer are going to be affected. Investment and consumption decisions. How to acquire products out there is all going to be affected. So later on, we shall be discussing these matters as we break them in that light to bring out the actual entity. But that is what it's standing at, 9.5%. And actually, if it all goes, because there is a projection at least that in the mid of 2024, the inflation shouldn't go beyond 5%.
Yeah.
But we are likely, according to what is happening, this is likely to beat that because the rate at which the shilling is depreciating is so high. And it also puts me back to a report that come 2025, still, they anticipate that inflation by next year might be about 5% throughout. So that is so scary in terms of a business person, but then it still gives you an alternative to think of, what is the possible alternative that I can do this, such that we don't get the impact. But according to the central bank deputy governor, that is Michael Atingigo, he mentioned something that there are quite lots of people that have been withdrawing. Lots of dollars have been withdrawn out of the country and taken outside, so which has also impacted the shilling, So that's reason they have decided to come out and, they increase the interest rates. The interest rates. To increase the value of the shilling, attract investors, as they say. But let's see how this really transpires in the next 4 months, because...
Well, of course, I do understand increasing the interest rates for such a category of people, but then kati muntu wawansi if it's going to affect them, because how do you borrow at a high percentage if even the one that was there was actually hard,
was quite high. But you see, and also what people need to understand, what I don't really get, because most of our inflation is the cost push inflation. It's not inflation that
global.
Yeah, I mean, talking about fuel prices, the pump prices, they largely determine a lot of the prices. But it really less has to do with demand of that there is excess demand of commodity, because people don't even have the money to demand for these commodities.
True.
That's the truth. So it's just really other factors driven. So I don't know how this really the balance creates in, because now this is making commercial banks more exploitative towards people, because imagine there are people that have been planning to get the loans. I mean, who have been only planning and they're saying, my only way to expand my business from here to here, I need to get a loan from here. So now it's the reason why we are seeing even lots of unregulated digital money lenders coming on the platforms. Such conditions really push for that. So we hope that probably this will have a positive trajectory as we proceed.
It may affect the people in the short run, but then in long term it may be an advantage.
In the long term?
Yeah. Well, for now, sometimes you have to, press a few things when you're hoping for a better future.
A better future.
Yeah. Because that is what happened in Nigeria. Remember?
But
they removed subsidies on fuel.
Which is okay, but if it happens for so long, it gets out of control. It makes it feel like it's intentional. Because inflation is good, because inflation can still be used to revive the economy. Because if the prices increase, you get that money, the taxes, then invest back into the viable sectors of the economy, providing sound economic infrastructure. Then you know that in this period, 10-year period, I'm reviving this economy, but it's going to come at a cost. But it shouldn't go from 10 years to 20 years, 30 years, and it's just worsening all the time.
No.
That's the only challenge.
No, I don't think it will go that far, because they will bring turmoil to our country. Well, of course, it's 16 minutes past 7 a.m., and this is the time where we get to see what is happening to the press. Well, as we look into what is happening into the press, as Ugandan small businesses actually giving their form of getting profits, with Uganda's economy suffering under the weight of prohibitive taxes, high and rising mass unemployment. Among other constraints, government makes the case for small businesses as an escape route out of biting poverty, with those touting enterprises as a vehicle for socio-economic progress. Well, we do well know that these are the businesses. This is what gets us revenue. Yeah, the small businesses.
The 90%, 90% we have really the small businesses. So that is how the economy survives.
Yeah.
Now,
so you can imagine now a gentleman saying here with 1.7, he was able to open up a hairdressing business.
1.7.
1.7. It's quite affordable, actually.
Yeah, it's quite affordable in a way. If you're this kind of a person that is not extravagant and you can plan effectively, because sometimes we plan for businesses and you say I need capital 10 million, but when you wait really. What do you really need 10 million to start?
And it's easier to recover this money.
The 1.7 that you're getting 10 million, which you have to borrow.
Yeah.
Because here you consider the fact that you see one thing people need to understand. It's not about what equipment you have. Yes, with time you'll have the equipment, but do you have the urge to do this business? Do you have the skill to do this business? I can guarantee you, if you have the skill, it's like saying I want to start up a salon. You may only need a room and a machine and a mirror.
Yeah, true.
These others you purchase as long. If somebody can have a haircut at your salon, because what you should focus on is that if somebody comes at my salon, they should be willing to come back once again because of the service I'm going to offer you.
Exactly.
Yes, you can have all these good fancy stuff, but if you can give me a haircut and I go to the public and somebody tells me, who cut your hair? They didn't cut you well. Come. I mean, you've already lost business, but you invested 10 million worth capital. Me, I've started with 1 million. I got my machine, I rented a room, and I have a mirror. And probably the hair not to go to someone, and a few two spirits to just put on somebody's head. And I'm doing it perfectly because I took time to get the skill. Amazing. Now, of course, getting straight into the new vision, seeing something here to do with Al-Shabaab as the United States of America sanctions a Ugandan farm. Now, of course, here 16 entities targeted across the Horn of Africa in relation to that. And of course, seeing here the VP Commission's irrigation scheme in Katawi. Yes, Vice President Jessica Lupo here commissioning the Agule solar-powered water irrigation plant at Agule village. That is in Toroma South County in Katawi. That is quite positive that way.
And of course, as officials are in hot soup over meat ban, while of course on Monday, reportedly questioned the Commission of Animal Health and in the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries, after there was a directive imposing quarantine in Kampala after an outbreak of foot and mouth disease without consulting other concerned government officials. So that is why there is an uproar due to the ban of meat.
Okay.
Due to the foot and mouth disease.
Foot and mouth.
Last year it was anthrax. Now it is the foot and mouth.
Foot and mouth.
Disease.
Oh my goodness, for the meat lovers out there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, of course, seeing here, charters for 27 universities are set to be decided this month. Yeah, and of course, that is what we're seeing. And Mutukula Road works starting really quite soon. All right. Now, as I enter into here, somebody here says that pay women for domestic work. Pay them money. That says the DP. This is a.
It depends.
Yes.
Don't we have domestic workers as women, the housemates?
I don't know whether they're trying to mean
stay-home women.
Oh, it could be stay-home women. I mean, but do we still have stay-home women in this generation?
There is.
In our era, the people that... okay, it's quite... it's a bit... because... okay, I could understand. Way back in the time, it was because access to education was limited. But today, at least institutions have barriers. Okay, if you don't get a degree, at least you go... study diploma, you study a certificate in something. So in other words, you make yourself a little bit busy.
Well, I think it's for cases where the man decides for you to
But
stay
who does what? Okay, which kind of a woman in this economy can really decide to stay home?
I mean, it has to be an agreement.
Because even if you have the money as the man, as applying to me, it's because women want to feel valued. This is the first place.
Yeah, true.
Because if you put me home, I don't have anything. That means with time, I'm not an asset to you. In other words, I'm not an asset to you as a woman, because we are talking about women equality with all these aspects that are moving on. Honestly, and think now it also brings me back to the perspective of information, that some of the women are not aware of what is happening, of what initiatives are being put in place to promote their involvement and participation in different activities.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you made a survey, actually, due to the unemployment, because some people most ladies do not want to go with the back and forth of looking. So the only option they have is probably marriage. I'm saying this because I have had testimonies.
But with time,
yes, it's just that we are not, for the meantime, it just overlines us, and we forget that probably in future there could be consequences to the
consequences
that we make.
Because it explains the cases of domestic violence that we have. Because if I put you home as a man, you don't have anything, that means I can do anything to you. So women empowerment, and I think women that have had this gospel and it has been spread towards them, I don't think they could sit home and not think of earning a living. And actually, statistics show you that a country with lazy women can't prosper. It's hard for them to prosper. There has to be equal balance in terms of opportunities.
Yeah, true.
Both women
and men.
If it's only one-sided, trust me, it's havoc, because women have something when it comes to when they get involved into some of these prominent positions.
Well, Makerere University modes compulsory career guidance training for teachers. So it's going to be compulsory for each teacher to have some knowledge on career guidance. Yes, actually we did, I think this is why we have most students now having to making career choices that are not really.
By the way, at this era, Mercy, I'll tell you the truth. A child that doesn't make it in school, in terms of career, I would think, I don't know what to say. Because if you compare 20 years back, when schools seemed to look like a punishment, and at some point, some people did courses, not because they really loved them, because there was an influence of family, or because by then we had titles which it was okay then to say, I want to be this, I want to be this. Rarely could you hear somebody saying that I want to be a computer programmer, because no one even knew about that. We have these traditional science perspectives. But now with the career guidance that we see, with the trends in the economies that we are seeing globally, continental, locally, I mean, that's why I'm actually thinking most of these, some of these, can I call them the coaches, I think they should mentor these students from a perspective of from an open perspective, carrying a continental mindset, carrying a regional mindset, and a global mindset when it comes to patterns of demand. What is really trending, and what can they do to participate in that regional trend? What is to participate in that continental trend, or be it global trend? It should be tailored in that line. It shouldn't be something that is out of, because you see, you can also mentor people out of the syllabus when you're just following a guide, because I don't think that career guidance coaches of 20 years ago should still think the same way in this era. Now, that is the problem. Even the career coaches need to upgrade on what they ought to tell children. It shouldn't be religious. Religion it has something to do with it was, it will, and it will always be. But now, when it comes to the life we live in, trends are changing. Trends are changing. I mean, demands are changing. Who knew that artificial intelligence would be a big deal? So if you talked about artificial intelligence 10 years ago, which coach would encourage anyone to do that? Because it wasn't a big deal 15 years ago. So if you're coaching students and you're still basing on the old curriculum of guidance, then I mean, it's all in vain. And we shall still have issues with career choices.
Oh, well, of course, here it says, due to the fact that kids are facing a social or psychosocial problems regarding depression, all the mental health. So they encourage teachers to do counseling.
Teachers who teach them.
Yeah, to counsel them.
Yeah, that is important.
It's
that is
quite
very important.
Yeah.
Mental health.
Mental health.
When you the last report I saw about mental health was 30% of Ugandans. I can't forget that. And 30% is a big figure. I mean, somebody may say 70%. Oh, we still have 30%, but now 30%, because now we're talking about active people, and these are youth, and okay, quite so many things here, because mental health and productivity are related. Okay, why can't we reduce that figure to at least 5%? But 30% is quite huge. And as I speak right now, I think it has increased from 30%.
Yeah. It is actually. You see why this is really important, because at the end of the day, you're going to have a class of maybe 100 pupils. And then if you're not keen enough as a teacher, because it's your responsibility to guide these students.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you don't have to segregate. The problem is why kids are, facing all this. There's a lot of segregation in school. The brilliant students are prioritized, and then
who's considered not worthy.
Slow in class. So
you're slow.
There has to be a way of balancing this. Yes, you are prioritizing these who you deem to be smart, but then the alternatives, you can tell this child, you know what, you could not be good at maths, so if you don't perform well, maybe you could go in a technical institution, do something for yourself. This is what we need. It's like the vice chancellor of Victoria University once said, it's no longer the norm of teaching kids to excel.
Yeah, we are not starting to beat the syllabus or and so many.
Yeah.
All right. Exactly 28 minutes past 7, and that brings us to the end of the press brief on the morning call at this particular time. Let's take a break, and we are returning with the Karibu East Africa and the international business updates. Stick around.